Optimus, I'm Optimus Prime, I'm the leader of the Autobots.
Here on the internet, hating on Michael Bay's Transformers movies has become its own standalone genre, with every self-proclaimed film critic regurgitating completely identical opinions, and then proceeding to pat themselves on the back for their astute and novel observations.
Oh, that real f***ing original!
It seems the only acceptable reaction to these movies is vociferous hatred, and as such it's hardly surprising that so many of their positive contributions go completely overlooked. The streamlined origin provided by the Allspark, a more monstrous and menacing Megatron, and the smaller, more focused Autobot teams have all helped redefine the franchise for the modern age. More notable than any of these, however, is the importance of the movies to the evolution of Transformers toys. With a new complex mechanical aesthetic, the Bayverse pushed the toy designers of Hasbro and Takara to innovate like never before, resulting in a quantum leap in action figure technology between the first and second movies. Unfortunately, such innovation has become a rare commodity in Transformers toys today. This decline, present in numerous different forms, is best demonstrated in the evolution, or rather degeneration, of 12-inch movie Optimus Prime figures. Our first exhibit hails from the Leader size class, which sits on the larger and more expensive end of the Transformers toy spectrum. Released in 2009, the Revenge of the Fallen Leader class Optimus Prime represents the best this size class has to offer. First and foremost, an enormous step up from the first movie's Leader, this figure features an amazing level of accuracy in both modes, as well as an involved yet satisfying transformation between them. Most impressive, however, is its array of play features, which do very little to compromise the overall look. In previous years, Leader class toys were often forced to make a choice between functionality and playability, with the included gimmicks often resulting in significant sacrifices to proportions, articulation, or transformation. Revenge of the Fallen Optimus, on the other hand, seamlessly packs in lights and sounds with the actual voice of Peter Cullen, flip-out energon blades, and the ability to combine with Leader-class Jetfire.
I don't believe it!
All this with only minimal interference, such as a slightly bulky backpack and mild elbow hindrance. Despite everything awesome about this figure, its reputation today is one of infamy. Its complex transformation proved too difficult for the younger set, as well as some grown-ups, with most now regarding it as one of the most frustrating Transformers ever made. In reality, the blame lies with these borderline useless instructions rather than the toy itself.
You're too good for this world.
Regardless of the highly erroneous nature of this assertion, movie toy lines beginning with Dark of the Moon would take steps to simplify their transformations, ensuring no one would ever again find themselves with a toy they couldn't handle, as if there wasn't already a system for doing specifically that.
Then why did you ask for it?
Don't fret, however, Hasbro made damn sure to get their money's worth out of the mold before retiring it, re-releasing and retooling it over and over again with new paint schemes, head sculpts, weapons, and attachments, though I do think this further demonstrates its versatility. In a similar vein, the integrated gimmicks which made Leader Optimus all the more exciting have been entirely phased out in recent years, leaving the Leader class designation an increasingly empty title.
I feel like a hot dog.
So despite its alleged overwhelming complexity, Leader Optimus would remain relatively unopposed, with its only competition held back by stringent standards of child accessibility. As such, it would be the adult-targeted masterpiece movie series to finally provide a true successor to the title of Best Movie Optimus.
Oh, Lord. Somebody!
The masterpiece movie 04 Optimus Prime does feature some important improvements over its predecessor, most notably a much cleaner back, free elbow movement, articulated fingers, and more accurate thin wheels in robot mode. Though it should be noted that articulated fingers and collapsible wheels would have been present on Leader Optimus had the world's economy not completely shit itself. One greatly appreciated feature is the swappable faces, allowing for masked and unmasked appearances. This, along with a very snappy pinstripe paint job, make MPM-04 an impressive specimen at first glance. Unfortunately, the facade begins to break down upon closer inspection. Some small details from the film are excluded, despite being present on Leader Prime, and with no play features to speak of, save for a removable matrix and detachable energon blades that make the hands look weird. One tends to wonder what exactly the extra $120 went into. Large sections go completely unpainted, making for an oddly patchy look, but I guess that's for the best given that what paint is there is constantly chipping, and with the truck grille forming the soles of the feet in a carryover from the Leader, it creates problems in the vehicle mode. Oh yeah, did I mention the vehicle mode? As you'd expect, MPM Prime converts into a Peterbilt truck. Or at least it attempts to. It is next to impossible to get the bonnet to sit flush or the doors to line up. It's supposedly achievable if things are done in some very specific way, but guess what happens when you spend all day tugging on these transparent plastic hinges? So unless you're willing to gamble your $200 toy, this is the best you're going to get. Further hurting this figure's already poor standing is the existence of several unofficial offerings which improve greatly upon the original. Take Legendary Toys LTO2 for instance, which features a more extensive paint scheme which is yet to see a single chip, and a truck mode which, thanks to only a few minor alterations, is actually able to hold itself together. I'm not trying to condone the sale or purchase of counterfeit Transformers products. I just think it's a pretty damning indictment that one needs to turn to grey market means in order to get a version of this figure that actually works. With a much higher asking price, almost a decade of engineering advancements, no play gimmicks to work around, nor the shackles of having to remain accessible to children, MPM-04 was in a prime position to blow the 09 Leader out of the water in terms of accuracy. Instead, a barely functional transformation and various quality issues make it little more than a MPM-04 is demonstrative of another issue plaguing modern Transformers toys. Alongside a decline in engineering quality and play value, we've seen a drop in both the quality and quantity of materials, even among the most expensive pieces on the market. This window breakage is an increasingly common problem, as entire sections of figures, including important structural pieces, are cast in transparent plastic, purely so that Hasbro won't need to fork over an extra halfpenny to cast the window as a separate piece. All this so we can have transparent windows which reveal nothing! Similarly, Transformers toys have been consistently shrinking for years now, despite their increasingly outrageous prices. A modern-day Leader-class toy costs twice as much as the Revenge of the Fallen figure did, despite barely coming up to its waist. I understand the growing pressures of inflation and the cost of oil and the like, but why is it that other toy companies manage fine with a simple price rise, but Hasbro apparently needs to make things smaller, skimp out on materials, further degrade their engineering, and raise prices on top of that?
You'll never get a cent out of me!
Much to the delight of everyone who cried about flames on a truck for over a decade, Michael Bay's directorial tenure with Transformers came to an end in 2017, though he is still there as a producer. The next year would see the release of Bumblebee, which brought a new look to the series. Though, much like the film's place on the timeline, the overall aesthetic seems a little confused, with half the cast having a great blend of their movie and Generation 1 appearances, while the other half are literally just G1 but with extra panel lines. Similar design inconsistencies befell the film's coinciding toys, the vast majority of which ended up resembling early concept art more so than the finished film. It's with this in mind that we examine the strangest addition to the Prime lineup, Takara's Bumblebee legendary Optimus Prime.
What is wrong with this picture?
Despite being released under the Bumblebee toy line, presumably to represent Prime as he appeared in the movie, this figure instead bases its design on Evasion Mode Optimus Prime from Age of Extinction, with the only similarity between the two being a flat-nosed alternate mode.
Yeah, good enough.
Despite being an all-new leader-sized mold, the figure for some reason tries its hardest to copy the 2014 Voyager-class toy, complete with limited elbow movement and mismatched windscreen pieces. Although Legendary Optimus does add the swappable face gimmick from MPM04, albeit with some weirdly gummy detail. This, coupled with some new integrated weapon storage, make it a neat upgrade over its small-scale inspiration, but far from the perfect Optimus we're looking for. Released exclusively in Japan, presumably because the standalone Bumblebee toy line was virtually non-existent, this figure is kinda hard to acquire in the rest of the world. With this false start, it would be another 3 years before we got a 12-inch Bumblebee Optimus that actually looks the part. The masterpiece Movie 12 Optimus Prime looks absolutely exceptional in robot mode, with its sculpted detail and brilliant paint scheme capturing the on-screen look exceedingly well. Unfortunately, like MPM04, things quickly fall apart in the vehicle mode.
Meow.
It may seem like a petty complaint, but the reason these feline features are so frustrating is because they could have been so easily avoided had the designers not blown the budget on Schrodinger's Matrix, an accessory which never appears in the film. But nowadays, it's absolutely imperative we force in this G1 fan service no matter the cost. That brings us to the third and most abundant issue with Transformers today. Have you noticed that these G1 throwbacks have gone
Completely insane!
For a franchise built around the core concept of change, modern Transformers is oddly obsessed with making sure everything stays exactly the same for the rest of eternity. These original 80s designs, or some evergreen facsimile thereof, adorn almost every corner of the brand. But if you even suggest that it's all a bit much, you'll be promptly swarmed by G1 fanboys who'll condescendingly browbeat you into submission. They'll tell you that it's okay for G1 to completely annex the live-action focused studio series. They were always meant to be there, overlooking the fact that they only showed up 3 years in and have a completely different numbering system to everything else. Furthermore, they'll clog up shelves for months at a time alongside their virtually identical War for Cybertron counterparts, further proving that there was no reason for them to horn in on the studio series in the first place.
Hey guys, I'm coming in! Ah, you jackass! Now you've done it, idiot!
I know I don't fit here, but I'm just gonna settle right in.
Throughout the 2000s, every new Transformers project was entirely distinct from everything around it. The brand prided itself on its ability to reinvent itself in fresh new ways. Nowadays, any modern incarnation is forced to have every ounce of personality stripped away in favor of the same boring G1 aesthetic, such as in the new Legacy line. Or alternatively, be treated like they never even existed.
Don't forget for our Armada fans and our Energon fans and our Cybertron fans out there, we don't, and even the Transformers animated, don't worry, we didn't forget about any of those either.
That's okay. You can keep it.
This trend is sometimes defended with this idea that with all these new shows and movies taking the spotlight in the 2000s, G1 somehow missed out and is only now getting its time to shine.
Then who's that?
And hey, remember earlier when I said that the Bumblebee toys were based on unfinished concept art? Well, that excuse doesn't really work when you're still releasing the same inaccurate toys over 3 years after the movie came out. Meanwhile, G1 receives a never-ending supply of new characters, mainstay updates and referential repaints, all of which are free to be as screen accurate as possible. The G1 favoritism extends to the Masterpiece side of things. The G1 Masterpiece line can have up to 11 releases a year. Conversely, the Masterpiece movie series receives a measly 1 or 2, and as such it's taken 11 years, 3 Bumblebees and 1 scale change to complete only 75% of the first movie's cast, with quality issues remaining abundant throughout.
Can't you morons do anything right?
Yes.
Of course, good movie toys do in fact still exist, in both the Masterpiece and mass retail lines. But that's the overall point here. There was a time when high quality, affordable and innovative Transformers toys were the norm, not the exception. When it wasn't too much to ask for a Transformer to do the one thing it's supposed to do, or for an extra play feature that doesn't completely ruin the look, or to want something new and exciting without being gaslit into thinking the Reagan years were our objective cultural peak. That's what makes the Revenge of the Fallen Leader Class Optimus Prime so special. It represents a time when Transformers was allowed to experiment with new looks and ideas, when you could expect value for money, and when Hasbro and Takara's engineers would consistently push the envelope to make toys as great as they could possibly be. Redefining the landscape and outliving every competitor, even in the face of pessimistic derision, this figure endures as the perfect symbol of everything that makes the Bayverse great.
We lost a great comrade, but gained new ones. Thank you, all of you.